Hello everybody and welcome to another new player guide, the series where we go through a hero's kit, look at their obligation and their Nemesis kit so that you understand what they can bring to the game and what they're going up against in the game. And your eyes do not deceive you. Part of why this video exists is because I assume at some point I'm going to miss a deadline, and it looks like I missed a deadline somewhere. This is custom content, and hopefully this does not come out on April Fool's Day. What day is April Fool's Day this year? Okay, I don't think I'm going to miss in the next couple days. So yeah, April Fool's Day is a Tuesday. That's a list video. I don't think I'm going to miss that. But either way, yes, we are talking about custom content today. We are looking at Hobie Brown, aka Spider-Punk, and honestly, this is just a draft of the hero, but I love talking about custom content. I aspire to maybe one day make a piece of custom content that the custom content community really goes, he really hit it out of the park there. I got a couple ideas, but today, like I said, we're gonna do Spider-Punk, aka Hobie Brown. So let's get to it. And remember, this is all the draft. This could be changed in the future. May even be changed by the time this video comes out. Although I've kind of slowed down on it right now, because I want to do play testing before I do any more changes. But Hobie Brown is a 3 recovery alter ego with the Rebel trait and the setup ability of put your Revolution Begins upgrade into play. And then he has a action which is called Encore, which is choose a Spider-Punk event in your discard pile and shuffle it into your deck, limit once per round. He has a 6 hand size and 9 hit points. Right off the bat, this is the part of the hero kit that I feel like is probably the most in flux. I will probably, unless I change what his gimmick is, the setup ability is always going to be there. But the Encore ability has kind of flip-flopped a lot. At first it was just any event, then I wanted it to be a Spider-Punk event to just kind of play into that more. It could very well change. What this started out in, actually let's go to the hero form. Then we can talk about what this started out as, because that'll make a little bit more sense. So we've got Spider-Punk, a 3 thwart, 2 attack, 1 defense hero with the Spider Band and Web Warrior traits. He's got the responsibility, Barbed Webbing. After a minion engages with you, deal 1 damage to that enemy, and a special ability that just draws you a card. He has 5 hand size, 9 hit points. I guess it still probably isn't even clear here, but okay, let's start with where this all began. I like Scarlet Witch and I like Domino, and I saw there was kind of design space to overlap the two. So where this started was kind of a merge of those two. Taking cards from the encounter deck, so you're kind of playing risky because you're going through the encounter deck faster, but counting the boost icons on the encounter cards. Now, part of the reason why I'm making this video is also because Falcon was just announced, and he's kind of playing in a similar space, and I kind of want something on the record that shows that I was not stealing from him. If there happens to be any designs, there's 1 or 2 that are very close, but I was not intending to steal from that. This was kind of parallel design. This was something that I was coming up with. I mean, I think I've been working on Spider-Punk for about 3 or 4 months. It kind of all, the 15 cards came together over a weekend, but then refining that kind of has been a longer process. That's where we started, was just caring about taking the top card of the encounter deck, discarding it from the top of the encounter deck and counting the amount of boost icons on there. And a lot of what I sort of had to come up with, carving out my own rules based on the implied rules of cumulative boost icons counted. And I think some of that's still in here. I think it's definitely in the Nemesis kit. But yeah, the idea here is basically that Hobie has, sometimes his webbing is barbed, it has barbed wire in it. And so that was the responsibility when he engages with a minion. Generally, this is just sort of a way so that he can always engage a minion and break tough, was kind of the thing I wanted to do the most. And then the special ability, we will get into that in a little bit. It'll all be explained, I think, on the next card. So let's get into that. And some of this will make a little bit more design sense. So the Revolution Begins is a permanent upgrade that comes into play during setup off of Hobie Brown. And this has been everything. This was a side scheme at some point. It became an upgrade, a permanent upgrade. it just kind of kept churning and churning. It took text from the original hero card and made it into an upgrade so that I could just like not have to take up so much space on the hero card. But it is a permanent with up to 11. The hero response: after a cumulative 3 or more boost icons are counted on encounter cards, resolve the special ability on a card you control. This used to be like the big theme, was trying to get 3 or more boost icons onto something for abilities to go off. And then I began to realize that that's a lot of text. Like that text was on every card that did something. And I realized that there was a better way. I don't remember precisely where I pulled this from. I think some of it might have been from Black Panther, like just being like, okay, I can hit a special ability. I think it was probably also Miles Morales. I was like, after kind of tooling around with stuff, it ended up with a little bit of Black Panther, a little bit of Miles Morales, going, okay, I can hit the special ability on cards by just putting that text onto a different card. And the big thing originally was that like we were always looking for nothing would happen unless there was 3 or more. And then I began to realize that like even in my very loose playtesting, that just meant that you had a lot of cards that didn't do anything. They just sat there, and you were always hoping that you could get enough, like let's say you're playing against Claw. You probably got that ability more often because you had two cards that could accumulate up to 3 boost icons. And then there was also a version of this where cards would get placed under the Revolution Begins, and once there was 3 or more boost icons under the Revolution Begins, then something would happen. And I think there was even a version where you could discard cards underneath the Revolution Begins to do all the abilities, and that also was overpowered. But yeah, as of right now, this is just looking for you to have boost icons counted in some fashion, whether it is a boost ability, whether it is off of one of his cards, whether it is in some other fashion. I know like this was also playing off of the Scarlet Witch, where she could basically like push the number of boost icons counted up 1 or down 1, for something like Hexbolt. And yeah, that's where this all came from, was just trying to figure out some way to make the special abilities work. And I think it has. We'll see how that fleshes out, but I think I've landed in a place that I'm happy with. Next up, we've got Captain Anarchy, a 2-cost ally, 1 thwart to attack, 2 consequential damage on the attack. He has the Spider Band trait and 2 hit points, and a responsibility of after Captain Anarchy enters play, look at the top 2 cards of the encounter deck, give the villain 1 as a face-down encounter card and discard the other, and then the Super Insurgent special ability of deal 5 damage to a minion, discard Captain Anarchy. So the special ability on this came from looking at Captain America, because I don't believe this is Steve Rogers in the universe that Spider-Punk comes from. I'm pretty certain of that. But either way, I wanted to kind of have a tie to what Captain America does, so there is one of his cards that I think does deal exclusively damage to a minion. I don't remember, but I wanted to give him, like, you can basically help to build up the cards, the boost cards that are given to the villain, to basically make it so that you can accumulate 3 easier, while at the same time having an ability that basically incentivizes that either A, you're going to just have him attack for 2 and go get shuffled back into the deck so that you can play him out again, or you're looking to build up that boost count so that you can just make an attack. But all in all, I wanted Captain Anarchy to be a character that didn't stick around, and I wanted his special ability to be something that definitely discarded him. So I felt like giving out 5 damage to a minion was acceptable because just because you are making a cost. You are losing your ally at the cost of dealing quite a lot of damage to a character. It also felt very kind of like Punk, like you're just going to take out a minion really easily. An early version of this actually put the card under Captain Anarchy, and then you could discard him to put that card into a point in time whenever you were counting boost icons, you could take the card under him and discard him to have that also be added to the count. So that was something that I think like in a hypothetical situation, let's just play, you're playing side by side with Scarlet Witch, you could give the card under Captain Anarchy to Scarlet Witch to pump up her molecular decay. I don't think that the way that the cards were originally designed, that would have meant that you could use what we would now know as the special abilities. Either way, that was just like a where my mind went, just as a way to supercharge stuff like that. But I'm pretty happy with this design. I will say one of the things that I am still kind of retooling is, do I have the right resource type at the bottom of the card? But in terms of like, especially with this card, I feel like this one is probably about as final as it's going to get. I want him to have low health. I want him to have a low cost. I want him to be a very expendable ally, and I think I've reached that, and I'm very happy with that. Next up, we've got Chaos is Order, a zero-cost event, tactic traded. With the hero action, give the villain one face-down card, draw 2 cards. This was just a way to address the fact that I wanted there to be a way so that you could do these special abilities like in the first round. It felt like there just wasn't enough ways to kind of set that up to make that happen, and so this was a nice way to not only get some card advantage, but to also just get the villain to a point where he's probably going to accumulate 3 boost icons on the first turn, meaning you'll be able to hit the special abilities on the cards. And the only thing that was kind of contentious about this was just trying to figure out what benefit I should get from that. And drawing 2 cards seemed like the way to go. I will say that, especially now that I've done enough hero guides, I will say that I do think the curve on Spider-Punk is a little high, but that Chaos's Order is a good way to kind of offset that and allow him to have more expensive cards. I wouldn't even say that they're very expensive. I would just say that on the curve, there's probably more where a lot of characters would have like a cap of 2s. He kind of caps out with a couple 3s. And so this just helps to kind of pay for that. And I think kind of plays into kind of in a similar way to Star-Lord, just being a little bit of taking some risks. But that's kind of, especially with the inspiration from his basic ally card, he's all about risk, and he's all about kind of explosive gameplay. Next up, we have 2 copies of Coming in Hot, a 2-cost event attack traded, and hero action attack, deal 3 damage to an enemy and discard the top card of the encounter deck. For each boost icon discarded this way, deal 1 damage to an enemy. This can be split, and that's part of the reason why the curve is a little bit high, is because both his attack event and his thwart event can be split. You can deal 3 damage to an enemy and then discard the top card of the encounter deck, and if it's just more helpful to, maybe you get 1 boost icon, you just go, okay, I'm going to break a tough on this, or I'm just going to deal damage to this ally or this minion that I wouldn't have been able to, I wouldn't have been able to take out the ally I was attacking anyway. Let's just throw a damage over here. Maybe that can set up the board so that one of your teammates can make a little bit better turn, take out 2 minions, whatever. But that versatility is what I thought deemed that this should be a little bit more expensive. I think this does cost similar to the is it a good workout from Domino, who does basically the same thing. This is very much coming off of that. This was the first card from Falcon's pack that I went, oh, I have parallel design to this. I think the Falcon one can only hit the enemy you attacked, whereas this splits off. But yeah, this was the first time where I'm like, uh-oh, I have parallel design with Fantasy Flight. I like this. I would say that if this went down, I'd probably turn this into 2 damage if it cost 1 cost event. If it went up, I would make it into 4 damage. But overall, I'm very happy with this card, and just happy with the way that it came together. Next up, we've got 2 copies of Disarm the Posers, a 2-cost event thwart. Hero action thwart, remove 2 threat from a scheme and discard the top card of the encounter deck. For each boost icon discarded this way, for each boost icon discarded this way, remove 1 threat from a scheme. So once again, this splits off. This can hit multiple schemes. This is one where I have questioned whether this should remove 3 threat at a base. I think that it probably should, or this should get bumped down to 1 cost. But also the versatility of splitting kind of like makes it so that it's hard, because you want to cost a card, at least in my philosophy, you want to cost a card taking into account just its upper limit. But then at the same time, you also have to keep in mind what its floor is. So if this is only going to remove 2 threat overall, then this is a bad card. But if this could remove 4 or 5 threat, this is a great card. And I think that kind of working on a knife's edge thing is what I was going for, and this is the one card that I just haven't figured out the perfect balance, but I think it's close. Next up, we've got 1 copy of Tempo Change, a 1-cost event tactic. Hero action, the villain attacks you, cancel the boost effects on each reveal a boost card. This was a late addition that filled in for another card that just really wasn't working. I think it was very much in the style of there's a vision defense event that basically stops all damage, and it just became too complicated. It was like, this isn't really helping do what I want to do, so I'm just going to retire that design. There was actually another ally. He was going to have 2 allies, and I had to retire one of the allies because I looked at it and just went, this is fun, but it's not doing what I'd like it to do, and it's not contributing to the game plan, so I'm just going to set it aside. And maybe if I were to finalize this design, maybe I would make that into a aspect ally for whatever aspect I end up putting him into. But yeah, Tempo Change I felt like was a way to kind of in coordination with Chaos's order, make it so that you can kind of do a 1-2 punch of give the villain a boost card, a face down boost card, then make him attack and basically get off whatever special abilities you're looking to do on the first turn. And as of right now, the special abilities that we have so far is just this hero ability, this Oit ability, and then we have Captain Anarchy. We're going to get into a couple more in just a second. But this was a way so that I could try to use the special ability on the first turn, because I felt like a hero that has a gimmick that you can't really do on the first turn just kind of turns into a very slow first turn, and I wanted to kind of prop that up. And so Ordering Chaos was my first attempt to kind of do that, and then Tempo Change was a late addition that I felt was putting the nail in the coffin. I wanted to also turn off the boost effects, because after looking at the art, I was like, oh, he's kind of like spraying the webs into the eyes of the Doc Ock equivalent in his universe. Maybe that means that the boost effects don't work. And it also allows you to go into the attack with a little bit of safety. Instead of blocking all the damage, he's just a little bit safer. Defense is 1. So yeah, basically any attack he's taking anyway, he's kind of taking it all on. It's like Valkyrie. Like defending with Valkyrie doesn't make any sense. She has 1 defense, and you might as well just take the damage. Then we've got 1 copy of Going on Tour, a player side scheme with Victory 0, and when defeated, each player returns an event from their discard pile to their hand, and while Going on Tour is in the victory display, after the first event each phase is played, its owner draws a card, and it comes in with 4 threat per player. I think I could probably turn the 4 threat per player down to like 2 or 3. I wanted it to be enough that Spider-Punk would need to dedicate like a basic activation to getting it off the table, but maybe that should be 3 now that I'm kind of like thinking about it. But either way, this was just a cool effect that I wanted to put in, where because he is so event focused and kind of using events as a metaphor for a song list, because like at one point there was a card in his kit that was, I think it was the one that I ended up taking out that the last card replaced. I think it was called like we already have an Encore ability, but it had some name that was akin to like an Encore. It basically made it very apparent that like events were kind of a metaphor for a concert or just a set list or whatever. And so having this and being able to basically encore an event and then taking a cue from Captain America or from the Steve Rogers side and saying the first event played each phase, its owner draws a card, is kind of a way to reduce the cost, but at the same time is kind of a way to get some card draw. And yeah, this just turns into a nice thing where this goes into the victory display and it just gives you a little bit of forward momentum. Since designing this, Arkham Horror has introduced a Guardian Investigator that when she plays an event, I think she draws a card. And so that was also cool because I was like, oh, I know this effect is going to be cool because I've already designed something that has performed well. Actually, you know what? I think the 4 threat per player is probably correct because this is very powerful. And I think that if this was just turned on immediately with very little effort, like I think in this case, making you have to basically invest a event to get over the hurdle beyond just his basic defense in solo. Kind of makes it so that this is turned on, but you don't get to actually like utilize it until the second turn. But either way, yeah, just I love this, and I've been very happy with this design. Then we've got 2 copies of The Power of Rock, a resource that generates a wild and an energy. And it is has the Revolution ability, which is a response after a cumulative 3 or more boost icons have been counted on an encounter card. Return this card from your discard pile to your hand. This text had to go on here because I realized that I couldn't put special on here because I don't think special is a thing that you can hit in the discard pile. This basically needed to have the text that the Revolution Begins has on it, but just in a way that is solely focused on itself. This was originally going to shuffle back into the deck, but then I found it was, and this could be balancing, I found that getting it back to your hand didn't happen as often as you thought it was going to, and so shuffling it back into your deck just meant that, like, okay, so I guess I can draw it later. There are 2 copies of it, so maybe putting it back into the deck would be a balancing thing, but at the same time, he does have a higher curve. This does help you to kind of like hit that curve on a more regular basis, and just overall, the Power of Rock is a concept that's brought up in the comics, and so as soon as I heard that, I went, well, this has got to be a resource because that's already the naming convention that we have, and yeah, I really loved it. Then we've got Spider-Van, a 2-cost support vehicle, alter ego action, exhaust. Spider-Van, search the top 5 cards of your deck for an event card and add it to your hand, shuffle your deck. So this was very much influenced by the location that Spider-Woman has, where you can exhaust it in alter ego to, I think you can hit any card in her deck, but I wanted to just tie this back into events because he is very event focused, and hopefully whatever aspect you end up in, he will also want you to be event focused. There's been a lot of things that tell you to play events, and yeah, this just seemed like the perfect thing. Getting into his upgrades, we have a 2-cost upgrade, Stratocaster, an item weapon. Spider-Punk gains steady, and a special ability of Take Arms, ready a friendly character. I always knew that I was going to give him the Stratocaster. He actually has 2 guitars in the comics, and both of them are represented in his pack. But I knew that I wanted one of his guitars to give him steady, like the rock steady, both a nod back to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but also just kind of a punk rock kind of concept of like just you're steady. And yeah, I knew that was going to be a thing. Figuring out the special ability, originally this was just a ready up Spider-Punk, but then as I began to think about it, I wanted to kind of extend it and go in a different direction. The special ability is on all the cards that have special abilities. We're kind of in limbo for a while, but this was definitely one where I knew it was going to ready up somebody, I just wasn't sure who, and I wanted to change it to a friendly character just because maybe you want to ready up your friend and not just Spider-Punk. But yeah, overall, I'm happy with this design. It is tested pretty well, and I like it. Then we've got the Double Cut, a 1-cost upgrade. Just like the Stratocaster, it is unique, and it costs 1. It is an item and a weapon. Yes, both guitars are also weapons. And then Spider-Punk's basic attacks gain piercing, which is just funny that you're piercing with a guitar. And the ability of We Mosh, which is a special ability, choose an attachment with the text hero action or hero response and discard it. So basically he's using the Double Cut not only to deal a bunch of damage and pierce through armor and stuff, very much in the style of someone like Sunfire, he is using his guitar to basically destroy things. Very much in like the London Calling kind of like just mood. I listened to a lot of punk music while I was doing this just to try to like get into the mood, and yeah, just the ability of taking your guitar and smashing it over something to break it just felt like a really cool special ability. Then we've got Web Swinging, a 1-cost upgrade superpower. Spider-Punk gains the aerial trait, and the hero interrupt ability of when you use a basic power, return Web Swinging to your hand, you get +1 to that power for this use. I took this very much in like the idea of something like Mjolnir from Thor or Captain America's shield, where it's like, we're going to return this upgrade to your hand, and it's going to allow you to do something extra special. And I just liked the idea of like, he's web swinging, but then he, has to come back down to earth to be able to thwart for an extra 1 or hit for an extra damage or something, or even like defend for an extra 1. This is a flexible card that, once again, I've been very happy with, and I think it, like, just overall hits all the thematic beats that I really enjoy. And that is the last card in his kit, but let's look at his Obligation and Nemesis kit. Here we have his Obligation, no power, no future. Obviously, Obligation, give it to the Hobie Brown player. You may flip to Alter Ego, choose Exhaust Hobie Brown, remove no power, no future from the game, or discard an upgrade or support you control, discard this Obligation. So this is very basic. The card name in itself is also just a quote from the comics. This effect could change to something a little bit more nuanced, but right now this is kind of where I'm happy at, with it just being a very basic Obligation until I say, like, oh, this definitely needs to be something different. But overall, yeah, like, I know I harp on them being very basic, but sometimes you just need a basic design, even if it's just as a placeholder. And let's look at his Nemesis kit here. We've got his Nemesis minion, President Osborn, and the side scheme, Traitor to the People. Right off the bat, President Osborn is a minion with 2 scheme, 1 attack, 5 health, and the government symbiote traits. He has toughness and villainous, and a forced interrupt of, after a cumulative 3 or more boost icons are counted on encounter cards, give President Osborn a tough status card. So obviously when he engages Spider-Punk, he is going to lose his toughness because we have the barbed webbing ability, but he can very easily get that back, whether it be from the villain or another villainous minion or himself. Like, he has ample chances for 3 boost icons to come down, and all of a sudden, and I guess it is also scenario based, but all of a sudden he just gets his toughness back. And yeah, when I found out that Spider-Punk fights against a version of Osborn who has symbiotes, and he comes back at some point in this mech suit as just the head with the symbiote around it, I was like, okay, yeah, this is the perfect, like, look for him, and I want this to be what his Nemesis minion is. Not only does it play into the fact that every Spider-Man has like an Osborn they fight against, but also just the idea that it also has a villain symbiote also sounded just great. Then we've got Traitor to the People. The side scheme comes in with 4 threat per player and has a forced interrupt of, when you defeat a minion, place 1 face down boost card on your identity, and forced interrupt of, when the villain activates against you, move each face down boost card from your identity to the villain. So this is very much playing off the villains, the Venom scenario. Basically does the exact same thing, except for instead of when you damage, I think that's when you damage Venom in that scenario, you get the boost icon, or you get the boost card onto your identity. In this case, it's as you're taking out minions, this is happening, and it's, once again, it's making it so that President Osborn has a better chance of getting his tough status back, but also just sort of putting the Venom mini game into whatever scenario you're playing against. Then we've got Taskmaster. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, but he is a 1 scheme, 2 attack minion, 4 health with the government elite traits, and retaliate 1 with the forced interrupt of, when Taskmaster would take any amount of damage, prevent 2 of that damage. So this is just playing into the Taskmaster we know, kind of the Taskmaster from this universe, where they have the, what's it called? Muscle memory or whatever. There's some other thing, like the kind of like the eidetic memory kind of thing that we see on the silk that's been previewed. But basically, like, he can kind of like just take more blows. So instead of just saying like we're preventing a bunch of damage, I felt like 2 was enough to say, like, you're not going to attack him with a character that only has 2 attack, but also he's got retaliate. Like, this just felt like, I think that he's a very strong minion. He has not come into play a lot, but I think that he's a very formidable, and I'm happy that he's not the Nemesis minion. I think that if this was the Nemesis minion design, he would be very hard to defeat. You would need to, like, basically come at him with an attack for 6 off the bat. So you need to have like a swinging web kick, like, primed and ready to take him out, because like he's going to prevent some damage, and if you don't take him down the first time, he's going to retaliate. It's just like, you feel like the perfect package here. Then we've got Concussive Concussion, a treachery with, when revealed, discard the top card of the encounter deck. If 2 or more boost icons were discarded this way, take 2 damage, otherwise you are stunned, and the boost ability, you are stunned. Yeah, this is pretty much by the books. Just like felt like it was a play. One, it's playing into what this entire hero kit is about, but then also is a little bit modular in the fact that like if you don't hit enough boost icons, you're just stunned, but if you hit enough boost icons, then you're actually taking damage. And I think there was an old version of this card that did something else. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but this just has felt more cohesive. So that is it. That is Spider-Punk. I actually feel like a lot of these cards are in a good place. Like I said, the costs are the only thing that I'm kind of retooling, and then just any resources that are on them, just to like try to balance them out a little bit, not make them too strong. But either way, once again, yeah, like this is custom content, so I may do a video later on where I even like play with Spider-Punk. Yeah, I hope to one day be able to finalize this and print it out and maybe just kind of like do a giveaway where I give this out, or I don't think it's going to happen before Con of Heroes 2025, but if I could just kind of like give this out to people at Con of Heroes, that would also be cool for like 2026. But yeah, that is it, and I will see you all in my next video.